the peaceful silence of a country morning in rural New South Wales was suddenly broken on January 14, 2020. Police had turned up at a quiet property in Roomba, just outside Wellington. Inside a small, unassuming house on Coomball Road, they found something chilling. A 60-year-old man lying still in bed, already gone. He'd been shot in the face, and 2 more bullets had hit the wall behind him. His TV was still playing Netflix when it happened. Just like that, his life was over. But this wasn't just any man. The victim was Shane De Britt, the longtime president of the Bandidos Motorcycle Club's Central West chapter. A big name in Australia's outlaw biker world, Shane's murder wasn't just shocking, it sent shockwaves through biker gangs across the country and kicked off a massive police investigation that would last for years. Here's the full story of what happened. Shane, known by his biker name Walk, was a well-known and well-feared figure in the biker scene. He ran a small but tight group based in the rural town of Malong. People looked up to him. He was tough, no nonsense, and totally dedicated to the Bandidos code. When news of his death broke, it hit his fellow bikers hard, not just in New South Wales but all over the world. Tributes started pouring in fast. Messages came from Bandidos chapters in Denmark, Germany, France, Singapore, and Italy. His Danish brothers called him a great man, great brother, and friend. In France, his mates from the Riviera shared heartfelt words about losing their brother Bandido Walk. And in Darwin, people remembered him as a larger-than-life guy and a real gentleman. To the outside world, Shane might have been a tough biker boss, but to his family, he was also a kind soul with a love for wood-turning and a soft side few got to see. That contrast between the feared gang leader and the caring family man only made his murder feel even more tragic. He was killed in the one place he should have been safe, his own home. Police didn't waste a second. The New South Wales Homicide Squad jumped into action and launched Strikeforce Kerosene to get to the bottom of what happened. With experienced detectives leading the way, they set out to find the truth behind Shane's brutal killing. At first, there wasn't much to go on. The hit had been carried out with scary precision. No gun was left behind. No one saw anything. And in such a remote area, CCTV footage was basically non-existent. Still, detectives were pretty sure this wasn't random. It looked like a planned, targeted hit, and likely had roots in Shane's deep ties and rivalries in the outlaw biker world. Over the next few months, things moved fast. Between August and November 2020, police arrested several people connected to the case. The suspects ranged in age from 22 to 58. With every arrest, the picture became clearer. This was part of a bigger, darker web of criminal dealings. It was a peek behind the curtain of a dangerous underworld, and it helped police get closer to understanding who was behind the hit. Then came a major breakthrough. Investigators found something big while searching Pinnacle Reserve in Orange. In mid-September, the investigation took a serious turn when police uncovered parts of a broken-down shotgun. Detective Chief Inspector Wayne Walpole from the Homicide Squad confirmed the grim find, saying the weapon fragments were believed to be directly linked to Shane's murder. With that, the stage was finally set for a court showdown that would bring everything out into the open. Fast forward to September 2023, after years of court delays, legal wrangling, and heavy suppression orders, the murder trial finally kicked off in the New South Wales Supreme Court. During the opening arguments, the names of the 5 accused were made public for the first time. In front of Justice Dina Yahya at the Downing Center, the jury heard that Philip Brian Woods, Brenton James Hayes, Jace William Harding, Brendan James Russell McLaughlin, and Brian Anthony Farnsworth were all accused of being involved in planning Shane's murder. Each of them pleaded not guilty to murder and other related charges. It was during this trial that the police and prosecutors dropped a bombshell. They revealed the existence of a group called the Grudge Bringers, allegedly the crew behind the murder plot. Up until then, people had been guessing whether another motorcycle gang or some criminal syndicate was behind it. But no, it turned out to be the Grudge Bringers, a loosely formed, non-traditional social club made up of people mostly looking for mates and a sense of belonging. But despite their casual vibe, the group had serious beef with the Bandidos, and especially Shane, the Central West chapter president. Each of the 5 men also faced extra charges beyond murder. Woods, said to be the founder of the Grudge Bringers, and Harding were hit with charges for directing a criminal group and having unregistered firearms. McLaughlin was also charged with gun offenses and involvement in gang activity. Farnsworth faced similar accusations, and although Hayes didn't personally use a weapon, he was accused of being a key planner and organizer in the whole operation. Justice Yahaya described the Grudge Bringers as a motley crew, a bunch of outsiders from rough backgrounds looking for something to belong to. They weren't a typical outlaw motorcycle gang. There was no evidence they were dealing drugs or running big-time criminal operations. In fact, now and then, they'd even do some charity work. Still, they had their own club colors, rituals, and a territorial streak, which put them on a crash course with bigger, more established gangs like the Bandidos. Things didn't start out hostile. Shane reportedly didn't see them as a threat at first, just a bunch of wannabes playing at being a gang, but things took a turn when a Bandido member was refused service at Menace Inc., a tattoo parlor run by Hayes for wearing his club patch. That sparked a chain of events. After that, the tension ramped up fast. Police and court reports say members of the Grudge Bringers were assaulted, and Shane started seeing them as getting a bit too bold, maybe even trying to muscle in on the Bandidos' turf, including the Wellington Hotel. There were also rumors they might have been snitching to the police. Anger bubbled over in their private Facebook chats. One message, sent by Woods on September 17, 2019, read, "This is war. If you're ready to pick up a piece and come cap a few, we will be good. But are you ready to cross that line?" Feeling under pressure and convinced they were being targeted, Grudge Bringers members started arming themselves. In early January 2020, Shane found out what the Grudge Bringers were up to, and he wasn't having it. He told his crew to shut them down. That kicked off a full-blown crackdown, with Bandidos members going after the Grudge Bringers and demanding they hand over their jackets and patches, a huge blow to any group trying to claim gang status. It was humiliating. Several Grudge Bringers were beaten and stripped of their colors, and the threats kept escalating. For the Grudge Bringers, this was the final straw. With members fearing for their lives and the safety of their families, they made a decision: take out the threat, end it for good. On January 14, 2020, they put that plan into action. The court later heard how Woods and Hayes, the ones said to be behind the planning, stayed back. Meanwhile, Harding, McLaughlin, and Farnsworth, along with 2 others who weren't named, suited up in black, put on masks, and headed to Shane's rural home in Rimba in a Toyota Yaris. McLaughlin was allegedly the one carrying the gun, a 12-gauge franchise semi-automatic shotgun. The prosecution claimed he fired the deadly shot, though it was never 100% proven who actually pulled the trigger. McLaughlin's lawyer, Sam Parajasingham, told the court his client admitted being there, but insisted he didn't fire the weapon. Harding's barrister, John Stratton S.C., said his client went to Shane's place just to scare him, not to kill him. The aim, he said, was to put the pressure on Shane to back off, make the threats and violence stop. The defense tried to paint the picture of a group of desperate men acting out of fear, not hate. But the Crown prosecutor, David Scully, wasn't buying it. He told the jury this wasn't about scaring anyone, it was a full-blown plan to kill. A coordinated hit, plain and simple. After the murder, the group wasted no time covering their tracks. The shotgun was cut up with an angle grinder, and the Toyota Yaris was torched, all to destroy any forensic evidence. As the investigation continued, police eventually arrested another man, Timothy Robert Lamont, a 28-year-old farm worker from Wellington. He was picked up at the Mitchell Inn pub in Jury on January 27, 2021. His charges? Hiding serious information about the crime, illegal firearm possession, and getting in the way of the investigation. Lamont's involvement came to light when police found out he knew about the murder but stayed quiet. Not only that, but he'd also helped try to cover up the crime. In April 2020, he went to a museum in Orange with the man believed to have supplied the murder weapon, and they'd talked about cleaning the guns and hiding them from the cops. Lamont's case wrapped up on October 17, 2022. He pleaded guilty to keeping quiet about a serious offense. The court heard he had known about the killing for 9 months and chose to stay silent. Judge Sharon Harris said Lamont lived on the edges of anarchy, knowingly hiding key info while hanging around with violent criminals. In the end, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison with a non-parole period of 2 years, punishment for what he did after the murder, not for the murder itself. On December 15, 2023, after a long 3-month trial and 28 hours of jury talks, the verdict finally came in. All 5 men accused of killing Shane De Britt were found guilty. Their defense, that they just wanted to scare him rather than kill him, didn't convince anyone. The court ruled it was a planned hit and that every one of them had played a role in making it happen. Fast forward to May 2024, sentencing day. Justice Dana Yah didn't hold back. She called it what it was, a joint effort to seriously hurt someone with full knowledge of how things could end. While she did admit the grudge bringers had reason to be scared, thanks to repeated run-ins with the Bandidos, she made it clear that what they did in response was way beyond justifiable. It wasn't bravery, it was brutal and wrong. She pointed out that Woods and Hayes were the brains behind the plan. Harding, McLaughlin, and Farnsworth followed orders. The plot itself wasn't exactly a masterclass in stealth either. Harding even fired the shotgun by accident twice while creeping up to the house. Still, Justice Yah said the plan was thought through and executed with clear intent. The punishments were heavy. Woods got the harshest, 28 years behind bars, with a minimum of 17 years and 6 months before he can even apply for parole. That puts his earliest release in March 2038. Hayes was handed 20 years and 3 months, with a non-parole period of 13 years and 2 months. So, earliest release in 2038, November 2033. McLaughlin, Harding, and Farnsworth each got 23 years, with nearly 15 years minimum before possible release sometime in late 2035, depending on when they were arrested. Justice Yah was clear. Just because they weren't seasoned criminals doesn't make the crime any less serious. She spoke about their rough pasts. Some had been bullied, others came from difficult homes, and acknowledged that being in protective custody now shows the risk they face inside. Still, the sentences had to reflect the seriousness of what happened. Vigilante justice can't be brushed off or explained away. What happened to Shane De Britt wasn't some big gang war over drug turf or millions of dollars. It wasn't about who controlled Sydney's streets. It was smaller, sadder, and, in a way, more personal. It was about fear, pride, and desperation colliding in one tragic moment. To the grudge bringers, Shane was a threat they didn't think would ever go away unless they stepped in. To Shane, keeping control meant making sure others knew their place. And when those two worlds clashed in the darkness of a quiet rural property, everything changed. Today, Shane's name is still honored in Bandido circles. His face shows up on memorial rides, and his name is stitched into jackets. But for the men who killed him, and for all the families left in the wreckage, this story ends in pain. And no prison sentence or court ruling can fix that. And that's where this case wraps up. If you've got thoughts, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you're into stories like this from Australia's criminal underworld, hit that like button and subscribe for more. It really helps me out and keeps the stories coming. Thanks for sticking around till the end. Catch you in the next one. Take care.